Thanks for joining us. This is episode 9 of Synergy to Synastry. Today, we're going to be talking about some pretty big picture stuff: the universe, soul guides, angels, signs from the universe and your guides, how to recognize if you're receiving a sign, how to ask for a sign, all that jazz. But first, Christine has a quick reminder for the listeners.
Yes. So, in addition to continuing to follow the podcast, sharing it with your friends and family, and rating it, I also found that there is a bell icon next to the follow button on the podcast. So, when you tap the bell icon, you'll actually be notified when we put a new episode out. So, we put new episodes out every other Saturday. We're going to sneak a few bonus episodes in. So, please tap that bell icon so you can get notified as soon as the episode comes out.
Before we get into the episode, we have to announce the winner for our summer solstice Apple Podcast review raffle. I'm going to turn it over to Christine to read the review that we've selected. But first, drum roll.
The winning review is titled "A Whole New World!" 5 stars. Thank you so much. The review says, I came across this podcast with an open mind, not really having much knowledge or experience with being psychic or intuitive. But Renee and Christine have definitely opened my eyes to all the different aspects that I never knew about from two experts. Each episode I've listened to so far has been very informative and captivating with their friendly and just good vibe dynamic. I highly recommend giving this whole podcast series a listen if you want to be like Aladdin and discover a whole new, intuitive world.
I love a good pun.
Oh my
So
God, love
the
it.
play on Disney and Aladdin, too good.
We should get shirts that say just good vibe dynamics. But I love that review. This just makes me so happy because it's exactly who we're trying to target and what we're trying to bring. Thank you, Dom413, for that wonderful review. If you could send us an email at synergytosynastry@gmail.com, we'll get you set up with that free reading.
And for anyone else, we may do this again in the future. Hint, hint, we're definitely going to do this again in the future. So continue to submit reviews at any time. If you're someone who has already submitted, you'll still be in the pool for the next time we do a drawing. But if you want to throw your name in the ring, make sure to hop over to Apple Podcasts and submit a review. Starting off the conversation, let's tackle the big kahuna here. What's the universe?
There's no actual way of knowing, right? That's one of the great mysteries. But from each of our experience, I think we have a different perspective on what the quote unquote universe is. So I believe that the universe or source or God or Allah or Yahweh, whatever you call it, is essentially the energy frequency of love. It's an energy inviting us to learn and grow and ultimately come back to that frequency of love.
I would agree. My favorite movie, 500 Days of Summer, which we've talked about in a previous episode, a line towards the end of the movie, this doesn't spoil anything, is coincidence, that's all anything ever is. And that always stuck out to me. What you learn in watching the film is they're almost saying that in jest, because that's not really true. It wasn't really a coincidence, but we tend to tell ourselves that if something happened I couldn't explain, oh, that's weird. And it's just another way of dismissing it by saying it's a coincidence, that's all anything ever is. I've leaned more into there being some sort of universal fabric or thread that's connecting people, and it's of energy. Walking into a room like the clairs we've talked about, and you can feel energy. Like, why is that? If we aren't connected somehow energetically, then how is it even possible that we could receive messages at all? And we know that we do.
That makes me think of our yoga episode, specifically the yoga sutra word, the thread. It feels like the thread that keeps us all together is this energetic frequency of love. Kind of just putting a bow on all of our descriptions. So, in addition to the universe, we also wanted to talk about spirit guides.
Spirit guides can be ancestors, angels, animals, star beings, ascendant masters, deities, plants, nature spirits, and more. And their role is to help all of us grow and to guide us from the other side during our lifetime. Anything to add, Christine?
A more technical definition of what a spirit guide is that they're ascended beings that were once in human form and spent so much time as humans, like thousands of years, that they had the option to continue to grow by becoming spirit guides and helping us from the other side rather than reincarnating into this life again. I remember back when I first started my career in finance, someone told me that all the new stuff that I'm learning, I know it, but once I can explain it or teach it to someone else, that's when I'll know I've mastered it. And it's similar here for spirit guides. If they can guide and teach us, that will help up level their growth, sort of the same growth that they were doing as a human while on earth. They are now doing that as a spirit guide from the other side.
And of course, part of that definition is discussing reincarnation. Not everybody believes in that. That's okay. If that's not your cup of tea, then you can just conceptualize from the more basic definition as some sort of beings in whatever form that they take that are on quote unquote the other side, that are able to walk among us, sometimes read your mind, pop into your dreams, occasionally move or displace things. I don't know how often that happens. I haven't really had that experience. But that there's some sort of veil where they are able to pass through it or get close to it and communicate with us to help us grow.
I will say I have spirits move things all the time. Some of it is probably my undiagnosed ADHD where I can't find things that I just put down. But a lot of times, things will flip on when they shouldn't have, or I was looking for something and I found it in a place that like had something that triggered a thought. So I have had spirits move things. And if you've had to, you are not crazy.
Christine, do you know who your spirit guides are? Have you interacted with them directly, gotten names, information about them, their past?
I have a couple of spirit guides. I should say a few spirit guides because a couple is two. One of them, his name is Oliver, and he just looks like a very well-dressed bachelor from the 60s. And he's sort of, my main guy. And then I have another spirit guide that I plug in with a lot. Her name is Aggie, and she looks like a sage woman, like a healer. Like she's been around for a really long time. And I had a reading once where she came through to the person who was reading me, and she has worked with a lot of my ancestors as well. She's sort of like the mystical spirit guide. Oliver was the first one, and he's kind of just been my buddy sort of the whole way, figuring out who I am, what my next steps are, things like that. I feel like that's two opposing images of spirit guides, right? So I have one who's been with me the entire time, and I have another who sort of popped in as I started to develop a certain gift because that's what I'm going to say she specializes in. But our spirit guides take human form and take human names so that we can understand them better. But your spirit guide can come through as any gender or any image.
How did you actually meet your spirit guides or know that you had them?
Within the Nuurvana Be Light program, there's a module where you meet your spirit guides and you do a meditation. And the first spirit guide that I met was Oliver. Aggie just kind of showed up one day in my psychic space. I was calling in my spirit guides, and she kind of just like walks over, and she's just like so cool. Like she wears all purple, like her clothes look like all, I don't want to say tattered rags, but it's all different pieces of fabric that kind of come together cohesively. It's all different shades of purple, and her hair is kind of gray with dreadlocks and purple coming out of it. She's really cool. She's what I initially thought my spirit guide would look like. Sorry, Oliver.
Mhm.
But yeah, so that's how I met them. The first way was through like a formal meditation. And now that I meditate all the time, I've had different spirit guides appear if and when I need them. So, Renee, tell us a little bit about your spirit guides. I don't think you and I have ever actually talked about each other's guides.
What happened for me was I had that initial reading I mentioned in the first episode of the podcast where the psychic medium was saying that my Nana, my great grandmother, was a spirit guide for me. Prior to the class actually starting and through that process, I was looking at different techniques and ways that you could connect with your spirit guides. And then naturally in the course itself, you did that as well. But I was trying to experiment. So I was only focusing on connecting with my Nana. And we got through the course, and she popped in through that when we were connecting with the guides. But then part of that lesson was connecting to other guides. Oh, if you've only been working with one, you have to start bringing in other people. So I've identified two others. I do some meditation. I'm trying to free write or journal on something in particular, or I will call in for assistance from guides for a question, and then I can tell right away like who it is. Caleb, who was tied to some sort of a past life. That's all I know. That he initially presented as kind of being cloaked. It was a similar thing to like what you said, where I can't really see you and I don't really understand like who this person is. And so he like changed his appearance a little bit, but he's a little more aloof. So I don't connect with him as often, but I'll always know when he actually does come in. I get the sense that he's there and he's around, but he maybe just hasn't been helping me with these chapters. He's there for like when I get to whatever those next ones are. Louisa is the other one. Greek Italian, like she has, curly hair kind of in a updo and lots of personality and like vivacious and everything. And she always comes in whenever there's anything about relationships. I can tell that she's very much assigned, if you will, because she tends to pop up around that, where Nana's a little bit more neutral and just across the board. And again, I think Caleb is more around waiting in the wings situation.
So let's talk about some ways that we've gotten messages from our spirit guides or the universe, however we want to put it. What are some quick, simple signs that we see regularly that we know other people can identify with?
Angel numbers, signs, and synchronicities. There can be a lot of confusion between these three, but the circumstances around them or exactly how they present is ultimately what differs. And Christine and I have a plethora of examples for all three that we can
Examples
go over.
galore.
Yeah.
What we're talking about when we say angel numbers, signs, and synchronicities is basically when your focus is directed to something that has meaning to you, that's spirit getting you to notice something for the sake of a message. Yesterday, I was in my kitchen. Am I on the right path? Am I moving in the right direction? Oh, maybe I should ask for a sign. Next thing I know, I hear a bird chirping outside, and my cats get really excited. So, in support of my cats, I always look out the window at them, and it's usually a pigeon because I live in Manhattan. But yesterday, I looked outside and it was a cardinal, and I never see a cardinal in this specific spot. For me, a cardinal is usually a spirit visiting, and I had just asked for a sign. My focus was initially on my kitchen. It was taken away from that and moved to this specific spot, and there was something out of place that typically isn't there that meant something to me. So when you're thinking of, oh, is this a sign, and you're trying to talk yourself out of it, think of those sort of check marks. And if they fill any of those, you can be sure that you've received a sign.
Let's start with the first type of message, angel numbers. Here's a quick definition. Angel numbers are a sequence, usually repeating numbers, or a pattern of numbers. Each combination holds a different vibration or meaning.
If you see a zero or repeating zeros, so that could be 00, 3 zeros, 4 zeros, even 5, that usually signifies new beginnings or a fresh start is on its way. When you see repeating ones, that is a vibration for your intuition and a sign that you're on the right path. So the number 2 or repeating twos can be associated with trust And when you see those, you can trust that everything is working out as it's supposed to and trust that it's happening for your highest good.
Repeating threes can reflect ultimately trying to maintain a creative flow or saying you're in one. You're tapped in to some sort of a vibration or energy out there. And then the reminder to focus on your mind body soul connection. Next is repeating fours. These are foundational. Think about a square, pretty solid, it's a base. You're either building strength and support, or it's a reminder that you are being supported, whether this is in your life or just a reminder that your spirit guides are there and they're supporting you. Fives represent change, or a signal to you that change is on its way and to get ready.
This is my favorite one. Six or repeating sixes are actually a sign of self love, either a reminder to take care of yourself or confirmation that you are. Seven or repeating sevens are associated with spirituality. You're on a spiritual path. Trust in it. Don't let life get you down. Sevens are also associated with luck. Eights, this is also another one of my favorites, are associated with abundance, commonly financial abundance, but it can be any sort of prosperity. You can have an abundance of joy, you can have an abundance of bagels. Don't just limit yourself to financial abundance.
Nines or repeating nines. Nine is the last single digit. So we want to look back at zeros, which were the first, and those represent beginnings. And in turn, nines represent endings. Get ready to start a new adventure, tie up loose ends, or level up. It's related to ascendance, what Christine was talking about earlier, where when you're operating at a certain vibration, is what it's typically called spiritually, but a certain level of connectedness, of being tapped in. I can't believe I'm going to make this comparison, but it's the first thing that popped into my head. Dora the Explorer. Dora going to that first location, and it's a troll under a bridge, and she has to face the troll. She has to sing, dance, do math, whatever the thing is nowadays. Then she's leveling up. She then gets to that next obstacle. She's going to encounter new characters, new challenges, new opportunities for introspection and things to work through, to heal, to unearth. And that tends to happen for leveling up. So sometimes it can feel like you're hitting rock bottom, and that's right when you're about to bounce up and go to the next level because you have done the work and you've gone deep enough. And then the last one that we have is actually seeing your birthday or the birthday of a loved one. This can happen as well. Those can be viewed as a wink from the universe that you are where you're supposed to be. So, Christine, which angel numbers do you see most often, whether they're on this list or sequences or other combinations?
Nines are big for me. And I do feel like I'm ending a cycle and getting ready for a new adventure. I don't know what that adventure is, so I'll let you know when I start seeing zeros. Eights are big for me. Sixes and fours. I see ones a lot, 111, 1111. One of the interesting ones that I started seeing was 1123. 1123 is signaling that your life is in current alignment and that your angels are letting you know that you are at the right place at the right time, which is interesting because, again, I got laid off in June of 23 and my life feels like it's been out of alignment since. So I think my angels are trying to tell me that I'm on my way to where I'm supposed to be. It just feels a little rocky right now. I've also been seeing 123 or 1234, sort of easy as 123, or I'm following the steps that I'm supposed to be following. And finally, what I really love about angel numbers is that not only do I see my birthday, but I see the birthdays of people who have passed on or people who are important to me. I was on vacation with my family and I was like, do we know somebody where the numbers 808 would be significant? And it turns out my grandfather, who I never met, that was his birthday. And he started coming into my life a lot more often, trying to communicate with me around that time. So 808 is his birthday. 818 is my uncle, who, again, I've never met. I've also been seeing 718, which is no surprise because that was the birthday of my uncle who just passed away recently. And the final one that I'm very excited to tell everyone about is 326. My mom's birthday is March 26th, so every time I saw it, I would think of her. But I then learned that my podcast partner, Renee, her birthday is also 3/26. And I'm like, okay, Spirit, have you been guiding me to this person as well for a number of years? So that's a lot of numbers. I'm sure you have a lot of numbers as well, Renee, and I would love to hear all about them.
I have a pretty tight list. I see very, very consistently repeating ones, twos, threes, fours, fives. Done. I will also see sequences. I get the 1, 2, 3, the 1, 2, 3, 4. Some new numbers have been popping up in the mix, such as I've been seeing 3, 2, 1 now all the time. And I saw it while we've been sitting here recording. I wrote it down. I also see my own birthday, 3, 2, 6, 10, 10. Also from the eclipse, I started seeing 11, 22, which I thought was interesting because you started seeing 11, 23. So I have a nice clean data set here of my top 3 angel numbers from Q1 2024. And they are repeating ones, which in the first 3 months of the year, I saw 181 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, which I saw 105 times. And then the last one is 12, 22. And I saw that 69 times. So those were the top 3. I see all of the other numbers I've previously mentioned. So whatever the math is on that, it's hundreds and hundreds of numbers any given month, and then especially in a quarter. I want to add the little caveat here that people might hear us talking about these numbers or the fact that I'm sitting there writing them down or Christine's writing them down and say, oh, well, you're just looking for the numbers, so of course you're seeing it. Here's my counter. I've had many, many experiences. I wasn't looking at my phone for hours. I was out somewhere. I was with other people. I was very present. I was engaged. And the first time I go to pick up my phone after 6 hours, I pick up my phone and it says 222. That happens to me all the time. It's like, what are the odds that that happens so consistently? And part of it is maybe because Christine and I pay so much attention to it. In a way, it's almost like the neural pathways in your brain. We've reinforced this as a channel for guides on the other side, so much so that they are using it really, really heavily. What I do in my practice at the end of every month is I'm tallying how many of each of the angel number sequences I saw. I will be guided to a certain sequence. And then typically what I do honestly is either something will just pop in and I'll just assign it, or I'll take to the internet and I'll do angel numbers 1122. And then I know I'm supposed to go to the 5th link. I know I'm supposed to go down to the 3rd paragraph. So that's like how in tune I'm like really, really following it. And then the message jumps out. That's what I assign it. For 1122, then I would start using that mantra. I would see it. And then it becomes a mindfulness practice of checking, oh, okay, I have to remember that that means this.
That's a great idea, and I think a great way to work with spirit and an easy way to get started. So thanks for sharing that. Let's talk about signs. A sign is a symbol, solicited or unsolicited, that carries significance.
I've definitely seen my fair share of signs over the years. We would look out the kitchen window, living room window, whatever, and see these cats, random cats walking into our backyard or walking around the neighborhood. And granted, there's people around where you would maybe see a certain cat always on a street corner when you're going for a walk, but they were continuously wandering into our yard, always different cats. I have this reading, and what the medium said was, this is coming from spirit. They are trying to get your attention. They are sending you these cats. There was a cat sitting right outside the door, and I didn't know who this cat was. So I just sat there. I didn't get out of the car. I saw it. I let it kind of walk by. Walked in the garage. I was like, "Oh geez, I have to wait for it to come out of the garage." I got out of the car finally because I thought it was gone, and I started to walk in, and it was sitting right outside the garage door just staring at me. So I've had experiences over the last several years with these cats, and I've never owned a cat. I have friends with cats, but clearly this is some sort of a recurring symbol. This could be spirit animal, something to that effect. The day of my granddad's funeral, of course, we were attending the services. I didn't check my phone until everything was over. We left the cemetery. We were carpooling back to the funeral home, and from there we were going to go back to my mom's house and eat and sit and talk and cry and laugh, hopefully. So I pull my phone out and I looked and I had a message from Christine sent not long before I'd picked it up. And it reads, "Hi, I was just thinking about you and your family today, sending you lots of love. And I'm hearing, quote, look for the signs as I type this." So they did a little shrug emoji and a smiley face. I said, "Thanks, Christine." We just finished the cemetery portion, and on the way over, we're discussing how a train went by during my mom's eulogy, and my cousin said, oh, she was talking about the grandchildren. So, of course, we're all sitting there, we have chills. Then Christine sends me this message, look for signs. We were just talking about a sign we received. A minute later, we pull into the funeral home, and there's a van there. And my granddad is was a very, very proud BC Eagle. Oh my goodness, there's an eagle. It's granddad. I pointed it out to all my family, and everyone was taking pictures of it. And we were so excited. And my mom was texting her friends, "Can you believe this? We saw this van." And it was really, really great. And it was the first real contact, except maybe the train, that we had had with him. And then the last example I wanted to give was on the solicited side, because I think that that is important to distinguish. The key is when you are asking for a sign that it has to be very, very specific. Knowing this, I said, all right, I'm going to come up with something that's very unusual. So I have a little owl on my desk that I got from the British Museum last summer. It's the Owl of Athena. I have that sitting on my desk. And I looked at that and I thought, okay, how about purple? Purple's cool. A purple owl. I want to see a purple owl when I am on the right path with my career and purpose. Mid-April of 2023 was when I had asked for that sign. Ultimately, what ended up happening was I was going about my business. I remember this was my sign. I'm looking for it, forgetting about it, remembering it, still not seeing it. I participated in this event at this crystal shop near me, which was my first really psychic event where I was putting myself out there and doing readings for people. I knew that I had a reading booked for 2:40. I thought I'll get there really early, then I can just network. I can chat to some of the local people that are in the psychic community. All my psychic friends live in other states. I was standing there and I was talking to two of them, and one of them just kept turning. And eventually she just walks over and there was a painting. And she's like, "This has been bothering me. It was crooked." And it, in fact, was right next to the room that I was then going to do 5 readings. I had a bunch of walk ins that day and I was going back to back to back to back. And I was told afterwards I was the most popular person and they had to turn people away, which was so stunning, so affirming. But before any of that happened, while I was standing there thinking I only had the one reading that had been pre booked, she adjusts the painting next to me, and I look at it, and it's a painting of 2 purple owls. There is just the deep knowing, especially when you're in tune with your intuition. That's it. I knew it when I saw it. It had been almost an entire year, and it was then affirmation for me of that, well, that's me on the right path. That's me in alignment with my purpose, because I had still been at my old job when I had called for that. That was before I had lived abroad.
I just think that that's a really great way for the listeners to start working with spirit. For my signs and symbols, they really tend to be animal related. So I mentioned cardinals before, blue jays, hummingbirds. One of my favorite stories is a friend and I went to Portugal on vacation, and I think maybe a year before her dad had passed away, and we are childhood friends, so I knew her dad very well. We sit down at a table, they put out a basket full of pastries. As soon as we sit down, a seagull comes over and just steals our pastries and won't go away. I have a picture of him just like staring at us, and we couldn't stop laughing. I was like, "That is your dad." And she's like, 100%, because that's just something he would do.
We mentioned it a little bit with the angel numbers, but same thing. You can also strengthen your relationship with your guides, universe, whatever, on the other side by validating the signs when you see them.
Oh, yeah.
When you acknowledge the signs to yourself, it doesn't necessarily mean that you say it out loud. I see the sign, message received. Sometimes I do say that though. Or you tell somebody else about it. That is telling your guides, oh, that worked. I'll do it again. This is a muscle, and the more that you engage with it, the more that you are building that bridge of connection. The last message type that we want to go over, the key for a synchronicity is understanding that they are events tied to each other with some sort of meaningful connection. And often what's invoked is a feeling of coincidence. I can't believe that happened. What are the odds? Let's say that you were thinking about selling your house. You know you want to put it up on the market. It's your plan. You have the intention to do that. Maybe you've started purging some items, whatever it is. And you go to the supermarket and you run into somebody from high school that you haven't seen in years. You're chatting with them and you learn that they are now a realtor. And then you could work with them. They could help you sell your house or give you advice or tips. So, Christine, have you had any experiences like that?
Ooh, I have a couple good ones to share. I was just thinking about how I needed a vacation, and I was talking to my personal trainer, and he's like, "Have you ever been to Jamaica?" I was like, "No, I would love to go one day, whatever. Move on with my day." The next day, my friend calls me and says, "Hey, this is really last minute, but would you want to go to Jamaica with me? I have a free stay at a hotel that I need to use by the end of the month." And I was like, "You're not going to believe this. A, yes, I want to go, but B, I was just saying I've never been to Jamaica. I would love to go, and here you are calling me with a free trip." I'm curious, Renee, what synchronicities you have.
Late spring, early summer 2022. And I had been in a relationship. We just kept having these things pop up, like something with this friend and something with work or whatever other stuff. And I just knew he shouldn't be dating anybody right now. And he's not going to be able to give me what I need in a relationship. And I said that to him, and he was a little taken aback. And he said, "You're so right." And I didn't want to say anything. And I was just hoping I could make it work. We agree, this, call it quits. This is not the synchronicity. That was my intuition clearly at play, but the synchronicity came after. I went downstairs. I was filling my brother and sister in about it. I remember I was sitting in the living room on the couch and I said, I just want to be in a relationship with someone who's actually ready. And I want to have an anniversary. I didn't ask for a sign. Show me X, Y, and Z thing when that'll happen. I want to see these angel numbers, whatever. It just was a complete release. I just want that to happen because I know I'm ready for it. Not 2 weeks later, I matched with the person who became my last partner who I was with for an entire year, and he definitely was ready for a relationship, 100%. I got a relationship with someone who was ready. I got an anniversary with them. But I was put through the emotional, spiritual ringer. I forget what Deganit calls it. It's like you meet somebody, they're like a test. It's like you meet the person before the right person. In the course, it was talking about her philosophy on soulmates. When you consider a soulmate, it's that there's something about their soul, their essence. You connect to them, something links that you can't explain. They come into your life, they help you, they test you, and they might be somebody who they help you to level up, what I had explained earlier. And for him, I can look back, that's exactly what he was. He was a big giant test. He was not quite the person. The relationship was very confronting and revealing for me. What I felt in that relationship was that I was dropping. levels. I was getting more disconnected. And coming out of it, what have I been doing? I've been able to do so much more work and expansion in the immediate aftermath. And that relationship was a launching pad for me to do that. So, to come full circle with that tangent, we're talking about synchronicities. To recap, I had stated my intention, my desire. I happened to say it out loud. It happened to be a big release moment of surrender. In a couple weeks, I was granted that first part, someone ready for a relationship. Within a year, I was granted that anniversary, which was the second thing that I wanted. But because the universe has a sense of humor, that wasn't it. I was granted those things, but to still learn, and there's more. All of these messages, the angel numbers, the signs, the synchronicities, they're all to help you grow. So when you look back on them, like what I am doing here, I can see exactly what was happening and I completely understand the narrative.
Or the skeptics out there, the ones who think 60% of the time it works every time, which makes absolutely no sense. The skeptics do not believe in this. How can we counter or validate, that we're not reading into things too much or there isn't confirmation bias?
I pulled a quote from an article. Discernment is the difference between intuition and delusion. When you're incessantly looking for a sign or synchronicity outside of yourself, what's really needed is a felt sense of safety and inner trust. We've all been there, and sometimes we're included in that skeptical group. You discount, is this real? How I have learned to do it is tapping into your body. Am I feeling expansion? Like expansion in your chest, an openness, relaxed? Are you feeling calm? Are you feeling really grounded? That's a yes. If you're feeling constriction or a charged emotion, you can be somebody who is anxious or has anxiety. And this can be very challenging to try to decipher, but it's the absence of that. I'll just kind of place it there and think about, okay, well, this is the decision, or for this, you're seeing a sign. Okay, I saw this eagle for my granddad. The knowing was easy for me because I felt open. I felt so certain. I knew it. You could have chills in your body. That's how you know you want to connect to something that's real, that's grounded, that's your body. How is your body feeling? Because your body, as we talked about with Lisa, holds energy.
When people find out what I do, they tend to feel like they need to state their place on it. I'm like, that's fine. You don't have to believe in what I do. You don't have to get a reading. One of the quotes that I think is really important when I think about those people is from Albert Einstein that says, there are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle, and the other is as though everything is a miracle. It shouldn't feel like a reach when these things happen. Living as though nothing is a miracle, there's no Easter egg to find. There's nothing going on. You wake up, you go to work, you come home, you watch TV, you go to sleep. If you're living your life as though everything is a miracle, oh look, I just got a sign from spirit. Isn't that wonderful? It's not hurting anyone. I always think about Phoebe from Friends. There's one episode where she thought her mother reincarnated as a cat. We will never know if Phoebe's mother actually reincarnated as a cat. But it didn't hurt anyone, made Phoebe really happy, and it brought some joy into the lives of everyone around her. You don't have to believe in what we do, or you don't have to believe in signs, but isn't the world so much more fun if you do?
You touched on it there. These aren't omens of impending doom. All of them are indicators that you'll experience when you're in alignment. So if you're not seeing angel numbers, it's either you're not paying attention and you'll start seeing them. Sometimes you need to understand them to be able to give them a name, to know when they're happening. Then you validate it. Then it reinforces that neural pathway, that bridge with the other side. They're always for the purpose of good, for your development, for your expansion, for your alignment in life with purpose, with love, compassion. And it's never about something scary that's trying to control your life or manipulate you, frighten you, persuade you to make X, Y, or Z decision. It's just about support and validation.
I also want to point out that my cat has since calmed down, only acted up when Renee was talking about her signs and symbols. So if that's not a sign and symbol for the people listening to this podcast, I'm not sure what is.
Up next, what we've learned this week. Christine, take it away.
I found out this week that tulips are poisonous for cats. And I found out because I went to a tulip festival and I got 10 tulips. And then I Googled just to make sure I could take them home. And I couldn't. So I have a friend who now has 20 tulips. So, Renee, what did you learn?
To provide an update, I am pretty certain that my clairaudience is developing more, just as a callback to episode 5. But what I keep doing is reminding myself to stay open, to not get scared, because I don't know exactly how it will manifest, with the reminder that I'm safe, I'm protected, and really what's going to happen is I'm going to be opening up and strengthening that channel. I'll be able to get more information when that clear audience is more fully activated beyond what I've already had in place. If you are in the process of any sort of up level with any of your abilities or introduction of any of your abilities, there's some willpower in trying to be chill about it, be aware of it happening, and then trying to allow that to just unfold.
I am so excited for you that your clairaudience is expanding. I am wondering when your clairolfactance is going to wake up.
Oh my God, I'm not even kidding. I might have one. I was standing at the fridge and I was about to open it. It smelled like coffee. And I'm closing it, I'm opening and closing it, testing it out, and I didn't smell anything. What do I think of when I think of coffee? I think of my grandparents.
Don't freak out, but as you were saying you smelled coffee, I was like, it's our grandparents. And then in my head, and then you said
Yeah.
it. Also, what prompted me to bring it up, I was smelling campfire. For any listeners listening, if that resonates for you, just there's your sign.
The other thing that I learned this week, one of the all time greatest shows on television, Great British Baking Show.
Yes.
For one of the rounds, they were instructed to make a tort. It's a cake with sponge layers. That's how the Brits call our cake in America. They call it a sponge. Sponge layers, often flourless, and interspersed are layers of mousse, jam, and you can have other fillings such as nuts, which is what most of the contestants were doing.
In Italian, a cake is una torta, a flourless chocolate cake, or an olive oil cake, or an almond cake. So that makes sense. And I'm happy that we now have a definition for it. Let's go into our channeled messages for the collective.
What came in immediately was, bear with me, people. Clim, clam, thank you, bam, never ma'am, grab on to the horns of life. I had to sit with that one for a second. What does this mean? Immediately, what I started seeing was a checklist with some really large boxes. You have to cross them off. And it's growing longer and longer and longer. And it's like one of those CVS receipts where it just keeps going, going, going. And then what happens is the spool of paper that the checklist is stemming from, it starts rolling away down the street. And then I have this children's song pop in my head. I'm curious if you know this one, Christine, but it's with the runaway meatball on top of spaghetti. It starts morphing with Alice in Wonderland imagery. It's a disruption. You were chasing after it, and then there's a switch to falling down in the rabbit hole to the depths and doing shadow work. The mantra I got was I dislodge from the chaos of life. The inspired action is doing soul work, specifically that's using music and nostalgia. Listening to songs, watching home videos, looking at photos, things from your childhood, journaling If you would like to support the shadow work or discussing in therapy with a professional, you're using this quote, intentional and chosen disruption of your daily routine, unquote, to reset your operating system and grab onto the horns. If you remember that crazy intro, you're grabbing onto the horns and steering the bull. Your power, your authority with and through passion towards the callings of your life. The emphasis was that there was more than one calling. If you're feeling that kind of energy, there's always something to do. I have so much to do. I'm so overwhelmed. I'm tired of it. It's been like this for years. That's the signal to do something different and actually go down the rabbit hole. You will have such a deeper sense of self, your own power, authority, self efficacy to then make aligned change with your purpose. That's what I got today. How about you, Christine?
I see the listener climbing up this staircase, which is a symbol of growth and ascension. And once they get up the staircase, it's the magic carpet from Aladdin, and I hear the song, It's a Whole New World. The listener is questioning, am I growing? Am I evolving? And the answer is yes. I have a resounding, like, caps lock, YES. Even though it seems like such a small step, it is a step in the direction of growth. And the message that I'm hearing, or the inspired action, is to continue to be curious, feed your curiosity. It just may lead to your next adventure. If you're interested in something that is not mainstream, but it's really interesting to you, continue to feed that as long as it's not hurting yourself or anyone else. Keep looking into it because it feels like that's what's going to lead you on the path to your next adventure or to furthering your growth. And the mantra that I got is stay curious. And I feel like we might have gotten that mantra in earlier episodes, but I can't entirely remember. I
No,
don't.
you're thinking about our sign off.
Oh my God. I'm like, why does this sound.
Our sign off, keep your spirit curious and aura sparkling. That's what you're thinking of.
Thanks for filling that in.
I love the fact that we both had Disney movies. I'm saying revisit things from your childhood, and then yours is finding an adventure, but then it's using Aladdin imagery. That was like a classic movie
Mm
we watched growing up.
hmm. Mm hmm.
We tune in and do our readings in a vacuum. We have no idea what the other person is going to share. So the fact that multiple times they've been related to each other, we're finding a commonality in what we're tapping into for the collective in this moment. And that's happened more than once now.
Thanks for listening.
If you'd like to learn more, the resources we used to prepare for this episode are listed in the show notes.
You can reach me, Christine, at Channeled by Christine with one L on Instagram.
And you can reach me, Renee, at _read by Renee, or connect with both of us via email at synergytosynastry@gmail.com. Keep your spirit curious and your aura sparkling.
We'll see you when the stars next align. Hi, listeners. If while listening to the series, you found that you have some psychic abilities that you want to hone through the same program that Renee and I have been a part of, send an email to us at synergytosynastry@gmail.com, letting us know you're interested, and we'll hook you up with Daganit, the founder of the Be Light program, and we'll also provide a $500 discount on tuition fees. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, just jump in.
Like, I've never done this before. Okay, so
No. This is only our 9th time.
okay, here we go.
I can't believe CoStar called us out like that. This is chaos.
This is chaos in a suitcase.
And I'm hot. I gotta take the blanket off. I'm gonna want it back in 10 minutes. My legs are already cold.
Oh my God. Okay,
Okay, I gotta stop fidgeting so
we're
I'm
not going to
making
fall
noise.
apart here.
Alright, go ahead.
Okay. My brain just shut off. My
That
brain
was
just
such
shut off.
a significant pause.
That's what they call a pregnant pause.
I was gonna say a pregnant pause. I didn't know if you were, like, taking a turn or if you were gonna hand it over to me or what was happening.
Just trying to stay grounded in reality.
My face is starting to hurt from laughing so much.
This was supposed to be such, like, an easy episode. It's not that it's hard, but, like, we're slow today.
Imagine
Okay.
if we'd had a guest today.
No. We
We
would have
would
to
have
be like,
had to
"I'm sorry."
cancel.
Renee, give us some examples of signs from your experience.
Act like I wasn't just laughing for 2 minutes straight.